The cold morning light filtered through the diner's windows, sharpening every sound, every heartbeat, every trembling breath. A young mother stood at the counter, clutching her little girl close, her sweater torn at the sleeves, and her eyes carrying the quiet desperation of someone who had run out of choices. Behind the counter, the manager leaned forward with a smirk, pointing a finger at her like she was an inconvenience, not a human being. Plates clattered, forks scraped, and conversations paused as the air around them tightened with shame and judgment. Everyone stared, but no one stepped in, no one except the quiet man sitting in the back booth, silently watching with an expression that revealed more than anyone else noticed. Before the story continues, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and humanity, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Ripple of Kindness to help spread more stories that heal and inspire. The young mother's name was Claire, and the child in her arms, barely 3 years old, was Emily. Claire had never imagined she would one day walk into a diner with empty pockets and hope that someone might show mercy. She was once a cheerful cashier at a local grocery store. But a sudden store shutdown and an unpaid medical bill after Emily fell sick drained every last coin she had. Her landlord gave her 2 days to find money. Her phone service was cut. Friends stopped responding. Claire wandered for hours with her daughter, her stomach aching from hunger, until she saw the warm neon lights of the diner and hoped, maybe, there might be kindness inside. But kindness was not what greeted her. The manager, a man named Rick, stared at her like she was dirt on his shoes. The diner was buzzing a moment ago, but when Claire quietly asked if she could have just a small meal for her daughter and promised to come back and pay once she found work, Rick let out a loud, mocking laugh that echoed across the room. He pointed at her ripped sweater and told her that this was a restaurant, not a charity. The customers shifted, some whispering, some pretending not to notice. Emily pressed her tiny hands into her mother's neck, confused and frightened. Claire felt her heart cracking inside her chest. She wasn't begging for herself, she hadn't eaten in 2 days but didn't care. She only wanted her little girl to have something warm in her stomach. But Rick kept pushing, leaning closer, asking her if she thought they fed beggars here. The humiliation felt colder than the wind outside. Claire whispered a soft apology, her voice shaking as she turned to leave, clutching Emily tighter. What Claire didn't see was the man in the gray shirt at the back booth. His coffee had gone cold. His eyes hadn't left the scene since it started. He took in every word, every painful flinch Claire tried to hide. This man, with a calm but heavy gaze, was Daniel Harper, the CEO of the entire diner chain, a fact no one in the room, not even Rick, knew. Daniel visited his restaurants unannounced from time to time, hoping to observe the true nature of his staff and customers. Today, he saw more than he could have imagined. He had grown up poor, raised by a single mother who had once stood in lines for free soup. He knew the hunger in Claire's eyes. He knew the hollow fear of not being able to provide. As Claire reached for the door, Daniel stood up slowly. But instead of approaching her right away, he walked toward the counter. Rick straightened up, adjusting his shirt, plastering on a fake smile he used for important customers. Daniel didn't return the smile. He asked one simple question: is this how you treat people who come here for help? Rick opened his mouth to explain, but the CEO raised his hand gently, stopping him. His voice was calm, but everyone could feel the weight behind it. Daniel then walked past Rick and stepped outside where Claire was standing, trying to soothe Emily, whose hunger was now making her cry softly. Claire quickly wiped her tears when she saw him approach. She assumed he was another customer who felt uncomfortable with her presence. She tried to step aside, murmuring an apology again, but Daniel stopped her with a soft gesture. He asked her to come back inside with him. Claire hesitated, thinking it was another humiliation waiting to happen, but something in his voice, steady, warm, sincere, made her pause. Emily reached out toward him curiously, sensing no harshness in him. Claire took a deep breath and followed. Inside the diner, silence wrapped around them as every pair of eyes watched Daniel lead Claire to a clean booth. He called the waitress politely and ordered a full meal, pancakes, eggs, fruit, and warm milk for Emily. He placed a gentle hand on the table, telling the waitress to make it quick. Then he sat across from Claire, letting her settle Emily. Claire broke down the moment the first plate arrived. Not out of shame this time, but out of the overwhelming relief of seeing her daughter smile as she took her first bite. The warmth, the kindness, the simple humanity, it melted every piece of fear she'd been carrying for months. Daniel stayed silent as she fed Emily, giving her the dignity of not asking questions she wasn't ready to answer. When they were done, Daniel finally spoke. He told her his name, not his title, and that he believed everyone deserved help when they were struggling. He handed her a card and told her that the nearby branch of the diner chain was hiring, and that she could start as soon as she felt ready. He also arranged temporary meal support for her and her daughter until she got back on her feet. Claire stared at the card in her trembling hands. For the first time in months, hope didn't feel like a cruel joke. It felt real. As for Rick, Daniel didn't need to raise his voice or make a scene. He simply instructed the district manager, who arrived within minutes, to handle the situation. Rick was removed from his position that very afternoon. Not because Daniel wanted revenge, but because no place representing his mother's legacy would ever tolerate cruelty. Weeks passed, and Claire began working at the new branch. She grew confident, regained her smile, and built a small but stable life for Emily. Every time she put on her apron, she remembered the day a stranger stepped in when the world turned its back. And every night, she whispered a thank you, not just for the food, but for the dignity and kindness she had been given. If this story touched your heart even a little, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Ripple of Kindness so more hearts can be reached through stories like this. Before you go, please comment below. Kindness can change a life.